Thank you. Good morning. And first, let me just congratulate all of you for this 4th annual gathering. I still remember being here during your inauguration, and many of my Thai friends have really put in a huge amount of work to make this annual forum such a success, not just in your country, but in all of Asia. So it is really very humbling for me to come now on the 3rd day of your conference to share with you a few of the small baby steps we've been taking at the University of Hong Kong on ICT's use in our day-to-day work with students. I hope it may be of some interest to those of you who, like me, teach and train medical students at the undergraduate level. So, here really is the sort of ecoscape of ICT and its application in the different facets of undergraduate medical education. You can replace medical with nursing, with public health, with allied health professional, because they are equally applicable in those healthcare professions just as well. And I'm not going to sort of name each of these functions that we do every day, that you and I do every day, but try to use some illustrative examples to show you how we actually do it at Hong Kong U. So first, monitoring and evaluation, which is always very important when you are a teacher, or for that matter, if you're a student, because the first thing that most students ask as they begin a new course is, how are we going to be evaluated? How are grades assigned? So what I shall sort of share with you is what we try to do in terms of the flipped classroom. So when you teach clinical skills, it's not very easy when you have a very large class to field at the same time 10 or 20 tutors to teach the same set of skills. It just doesn't work very well. It may work in the old days, half a century ago, when you only have a class size of 50. Then you can have 1 or 2 people circulating small groups, and then you can teach them how to examine a knee. You can teach them how to inject a joint. You can teach them all these clinical skills that we're supposed to demonstrate at the bedside. But if you, like me, are facing an ever-increasing class size because of ever-increasing healthcare needs, so I have about 235 students every year. If I really do small group clinical skills teaching, I would have to field at least 25 tutors in parallel at any one time. I simply do not have that manpower. So what we do is we have a clinical skills e-learning platform, and as you can see, there are ways where you can really sort of film and produce nuggets of how-to videos. And for those of you who read the New England Journal of Medicine quite regularly, you will notice that the New England Journal actually started this 5 years ago. So once in a while, they'll have a particular clinical skill that they actually film and put online as part of their education supplement. Now, we try and do our own. Of course, we use some of theirs, but we try to do our own in our context, and we have a wealth of these things online already. And what the e-learning platform also gives you is that the videos are organized by year, by specialty, by level of difficulty. It's user-friendly, and you can track student progress. So you can see who has actually watched it, rewatched it, done the quizzes on it, and so on and so forth. So you basically flip the classroom, you ask them to prepare, you ask them to practice on each other before they even come to class or to the bedside. And it's a much more efficient way of learning. Now, those are sort of small group teaching, and then if you now take it to the other end of the spectrum and look at MOOCs, or massive open online courses. Now, of course, everybody knows about MOOCs, but what we do is we actually do it ourselves. So we've been offering, or at least I have been foolish enough to offer, Hong Kong U's first MOOC in epidemics. It was on the edX platform for 3 years, and every year we get about 15 to 20,000 students taking it. Funnily enough, although we are located in Hong Kong or China, the most number of students who actually register for the course and actually complete the course are from the United States. And because edX, quite frankly, doesn't have quite the penetration or the reach, and paradoxically, it doesn't have the reach in mainland China, mostly because it used to be run on the YouTube platform, which is not, of course, available in mainland China. So we've actually decided to switch. In order to reach our own market internally, we have to switch now to Coursera. So it's being offered on Coursera as I speak. So as you can see, it started in September this year. We switched to the Coursera platform. And this is just an intro video. Welcome to Academics. I'm Gabriel Leung, Dean of Medicine at the University of Hong Kong. In this MOOC, my colleagues and I will take you on a journey through not only the fundamental scientific principles underlying epidemics, but also the public health actions behind the prevention and control. We have substantially upgraded epidemics since its debut in 2014. Besides the original 10-week introductory sessions on the origin, spread, and control of epidemics, we've added an exciting series of panel discussions with world-leading experts on major epidemic threats that you'll have read about in the headlines, including Ebola, Zika, and the anti-vaccination movement. In addition, we've prepared a series of supplementary modules on the latest development of next-generation informatics for controlling epidemics in the age of big data and artificial intelligence. We hope you enjoy the journey. So that is on Coursera. If you're interested, please scan the QR code and look for us. So another way that we use ICT, not only just to reach students in small group, flip bedside teaching, or in fact the entire world in talking about global health and epidemics, we now look at how you organize courses. So this is our 6-year curriculum. So in our 6-year curriculum, we have got 2 blocks which are quite important. So we have here what we call the elective block, which is after the final exam of the 6-year curriculum. We send them out to see the world before they go and do the internship, as well as there's an enrichment year, which is the whole of the 3rd year. I'll come to that in a moment. But let's now focus on the electives. So how do you keep track of 235 students as they go literally all over the world? Now, we actually allow them to do everything online, where for learners, they can allow us to vet their proposals online. There's an electronic forum for information sharing. For teachers, it allows us to grade them, to track them, to monitor them, and to allocate the school-based proposals based on student preferences. So it's kind of like a matching system, as well as one that allows you to do grading online together. Now, to the enrichment year. The enrichment year is really the 3rd year of the 6-year curriculum, where we don't try to do any medicine at all. This whole year is really for them to expand their horizons. So Hong Kong U has a Horizons program where we send kids out actually to all parts of the world, but particularly the developing world, to do experiential learning, or they can spend time in the lab and really try and learn to become a clinician scientist, or they can go and take courses from places outside of Hong Kong in the best campuses around the world. So more specifically, during the enrichment year, they can go and do a research internship. And for the really able ones, during that year, they can do a 1-year, very intensive 12-month research-based master's, either locally in Hong Kong U or in our joint labs around the world. Or they can go and do service or humanitarian work with international NGOs and undergo voluntary experiential learning. And of course, we don't actually just send them out. We give them a initiating course, a core course in global health. Then they go out into the world, and then they come back and do a debriefing and deliver on some of the sharing and the posters. Or they can go, as I say, either within Hong Kong U or go in an exchange program or even do intercalated degrees, all very, very densely packed into 12 months in Hong Kong U or around the world. So you can see they can articulate to do an additional degree, or they can do electives at any of these places in any of these subjects, half of which has nothing to do with science or medicine. So how do you possibly manage an unimaginable number of combinations and permutations? In fact, last week when I just was leaving Hong Kong, a student actually asked me whether they could go and do a course, a 1-year course in Codonblur, as in the cooking class. And I said, if you can somehow convince me that cooking has something to do with the microbiome in the gut, then I will let you go. And what then she came back with was from last week's Science. There were 2 papers to show how the NHPE, that is the checkpoint inhibitors of cancer therapy, has very, very different outcomes depending on the gut microbiome, and specifically whether you take antibiotics or a particular sort of blend of yogurt before you actually go on these checkpoint inhibitors. So I was convinced, and she's probably going to do a joint program with the microbiome lab somewhere in London doing Codonblur as well. So how do you possibly actually keep track of all these things? Well, we have this enrichment year management system, which we are currently developing because the enrichment year will start next September. And this also allows for inter-university online vetting of credit transfer applications because we've got so many university partners around the world. Then there is this learning activity management system. This is actually free technology. This is generic, off the rack. You can get it free, and you then adapt it. So what this is for is what we use it for interprofessional education. Over the last couple of days, we talked quite a lot about interprofessional education between the medical students, the nursing students, the public health students, and the allied health students. So how do you get them to work together? Well, we actually provide immediate feedback, instantaneous feedback, real-time score summaries for these team-based learning activities, and this is what happens. So the next thing we do is assessment, recording, and reporting. We have got a software called the Examinizer, which is really to track how students do throughout the 6 years in medical school. And we allow concurrent access of different users across different years. So this is a multi-user, multi-interface program to track student progress. And once you are able to identify somebody who might be falling off a cliff, before they really do fall off a cliff, then you can intervene. And that's the whole point of having this system. And then another thing that we do is we have a web-based item bank or question bank management system. It's very difficult for those of you who, like me, have to set exam questions because there are only so many ways you can ask the same thing. Medicine and healthcare and biology don't really change on a year-to-year basis, but examination questions must. And therefore, we originally conceived this in partnership with our sister school in Hong Kong, the Chinese University, and also the University of Alberta, and we have extended it to dozens of schools worldwide, I believe some also in this country, where we all pitch in, and cumulatively now we've got about 20,000 questions 17,000 of which are MCQs or multiple choice questions, short answer questions about 500 some, and then OSCE stations about 500 as well. And collectively, member schools contribute 4,000 new questions every year. And of course, you would say, well, how come there are only 20,000 questions if everybody pitches in 4,000 questions every year? Well, that's because we retire some questions, questions which were found to be not very good based on these exam question metrics that we generate after each set of exams in our school and in some of the partner schools as well. So this is how it works. There is the examiner who sets the questions, and they'll be sorted by year, by format, by specialty, by difficulty, and by university. Each university has got a school-wide item bank or question bank, and then they go into this giant intranet, and every university would do the same. And here are all the partner universities which contribute to this examination bank. Finally, I'm just here to do a bit of marketing because we have actually had fairly good Thai representation. Every year we host an education conference around the end of the year in Hong Kong. And this year it's going to be a special conference because it is the 20th anniversary of the Asian Medical Education Association, or AMEA, and also the 9th symposium. So every couple of years they have a symposium. The Asian Medical Education Association is going to host this symposium at Hong Kong U, and this is really the poster. So for those of you who may be available and free and interested, do come and register, and we look forward to seeing you in Hong Kong. And this is also our 130th anniversary at Hong Kong University, and thank you so much again for giving me this platform to share with you some of our thoughts in ICT in medical education.